everybody. Welcome to our STAMP showcase. For those of you who are unfamiliar or are less familiar with STAMP, STAMP is an initiative we refer to as STAMP, but it stands for Scaling Transformative Advanced Manufacturing Pathways. I'm going to start just with a little bit of introduction and telling you all more about what STAMP entails. And then we're going to have some community spotlights and highlight some of our STAMP regions. Also, please share in the chat your name, title, organization, so that we can all get an introduction to ourselves. I am Laura Monagudo. I am a Pathways Manager with EdSystems, and I am the project lead on STAMP, which is why I am sort of your master of ceremonies today. But we're happy to have you all here and give you some time to hear from our communities. A little bit about EdSystems. So we are a policy implementation center out of Northern Illinois University. Our vision that really all of our work comes back to is establishing clear and unambiguous paths to college and career opportunities that equip students for meaningful participation in the economy. So that last piece really speaks to our goals to bring students, especially those farther from opportunity, closer to chances to make a living wage, to have careers that progress and build on their experiences. There are three sort of pillars of work where the things that we do all fit. So one is policy. So that's really about shaping systems around career paths in the state. Again, to focus on equitable access. We also do a lot of work around practice, which is probably where STAMP fits in the best, about sort of really focusing on those learner experiences, focusing on what those systems look like in practice. And then a third piece is impact, where we're really looking at those policies and practices and driving change through the data that we're able to observe. The work we do in terms of topic, what kinds of things we work on, falls into several different areas. Obviously, college and career pathways is a pretty clear, explicit one, but within all of that too, we also do work around career-connected and work-based learning, transitional instruction, early college coursework. So really, pretty much any piece that focuses sort of on that transition to college and career. With that, our agenda. So I mentioned we're going to have a little introduction to the project, and then we are going to spotlight some of our STAMP communities. We'll have an update on the data work that we do with STAMP. And then lastly, we'll finish up with some coverage of our employer work-based learning implementation survey that we've been doing as a part of this project. So just STAMP, I know I explained a little bit, but a little bit further. STAMP is a model and a project that we run, funded through Illinois Department of Commerce Economic Opportunity and Chicago Community Trust, facilitated through the Illinois Manufacturing Association. This project has been going on for several cycles. So we've been at this, I think, for 4 years. I might be wrong. But it's been several years, since 2022. Thank you, Sarah. So I was right. So we've been going on with this since 2022. We work with 7 regions who pull together regional teams of folks that are all sort of relevant stakeholders in this college and career transition space. So that looks like folks from their community colleges, folks from their high schools, community partners. And the goal here is to really work on increasing secondary enrollment in manufacturing pathways, especially for those that are underrepresented. And that includes, for example, in manufacturing, like females in manufacturing, also increasing dual credit offerings around manufacturing. What does high quality work-based learning in manufacturing look like? How can these communities scale their pathways, build progress towards industry credentials, utilize and utilize and sort of fit in with the state policy and the state happenings, utilize the data around their manufacturing pathways to sort of inform continuous improvement pieces too at this point now that we're in 4 years. So those are the goals of SAMP and some of the aims of having sort of this regional team model. To show you how that's been going, we have a few communities that we want to spotlight. Our first community that we have up is Elgin/Northern Kane.
Good afternoon, everyone. For us, it's been a really busy year again. We were able to expand the number of CCPE credentials that our districts have now earned to where now 3 out of the 4 are participating with that. We continue to see those numbers grow. I didn't see if Joe was on. He can speak a little bit more about how many they've increased in District 300. I think overall they tripled their number this past year. We've had a number of students have now earned their industry credentials. I was going through the numbers here. All 11 seniors in South Elgin High School, or U46, all earned a industry credential for manufacturing, so that was exciting there. On top of the fact that South Elgin High School has been participating in a program for manufacturing for the last couple of years, producing parts for prosthetic limbs that are part of a project that goes into Central and South America for those in need. They were able to complete 106 individual parts this year for that program. Even more exciting is that the students didn't like the original design, so the students took it upon themselves to go back and redesign the piece so it could be more universal for people of different heights. So it was really exciting to see a lot of that going on, along with then Manufacturing Month tours with 24 companies that hosted over 600 students here in the fall. And then we currently right now, I think it said 64. We might be a little bit over that for a number of students out with paid internships this summer. So this will be our 5th summer that we've had students out for internships across the region. So really, really exciting for that. We couldn't do that with all of our business partners. I know I saw Dawn is on from G Camp. She's a great partner of ours. And then can't do it without all of our districts as well. So a lot of good things going on across our region. One of the things here, we had recently moved, I think now 2 years ago, moved a program out of Streamwood High School for manufacturing. They condensed it down into just South Elgin High School because of having a teacher retire and not having a teacher take over or have a teacher ready to take over in that building. This has hurt our enrollment a little bit, so we're just now getting back on the uptick as far as number of students enrolled. And still we see the next big piece is with the fact that families and students don't necessarily understand what manufacturing is. So we continue to try to market our manufacturing programs, especially explaining to a lot of our students who say they want to do engineering on how they should be really involved in manufacturing programs, because they should learn or understand how parts are not only designed, but then how they're made and whether or not what you design can actually be made. So we continue to push a lot of that across the region. Continue to look for our next steps. We have a district that's looking at adding more industrial maintenance. We've had 2 districts that have now gone into the robotics and the automation side of things with classes on that side. And then we're just going to continue to promote the manufacturing careers across our region with companies that are not only willing to have kids come in and learn about them, but then also looking for apprentices. So finding ways for, as you mentioned, Laura, our underrepresented populations, find a way for them to get school paid for by going into one of these apprenticeship programs.
All right, let's move on to our next community. So we are going to highlight the northwest suburbs next with District 214.
Hi, everybody. Just some updates with our manufacturing pathway. I think the large theme this year has been alignment. We have the manufacturing pathway rolled out to all 6 of our high schools and the alternative program we have, but now we're really trying to focus on making sure that the student experience is the same irregardless of the high school building they are at. And the 5 big things going on in the manufacturing area is our robot rumble competition. This is a big one. Everyone loves it. 2 days regional event. It's a great big thing. Our high mileage competition, industry certs and NIMS for students, our Illinois Youth Apprenticeships, and then the career endorsements in the Met area. So if you could play the video, it's just like a minute and a half.
3, 2, 1, let's rumble!
I think like events like this really show like the determination that students have to build things like this, and like the time it takes to like really like build teamwork and well the skills you need to even like make something like this.
I have learned so much throughout my 3 years doing robot, designing and building the robots, and like learning about whether or not, how the physical compares to just the design. I think it's really important for anyone who wants to be an engineer or manufacturer.
Some problems with our wiring, but it's okay. We're gonna get our wires fixed. We're gonna make this longer so we can have it reach over to the batteries and connect, because right now they're a little short. So once we got hit, it immediately disconnected our batteries. Our pneumatics are working fine. We need to create a way to get easier access to this pull valve to make it safe to release the air from everything. But it's okay, we're gonna get everything fixed and get back out there, and we'll see how that goes.
Not only Robot Rumble, I'm also part of like other programs, but it teaches people, like kids, to be innovative, like finding their own solutions to different problems they face.
This is such a fun competition. Even if we don't do well, it's still fun to get out there and start working. It's a great experience. You learn a lot, especially when you make mistakes, and that's why we're here.
Okay, so for the Robot Rumble competition, 43 teams from 15 different high schools in the area. So it's a huge event that we have, and it rotates between the high schools each year. Our high mileage competition, we used to have this at Autobahn Racetrack down by, I think, Joliet. And Elkhorn, Wisconsin started a competition up there this year, and it went wonderfully. One, because we didn't have to organize this, and two, without the track rental that we were paying for, this is now made sure that we'll be able to keep this high mileage competition available for students as a team challenge, because the cost of the track rental had been making it prohibitive in keeping this program around. But we had that cost change, so we don't have to worry about losing this opportunity for students. Our NIMS certifications, this is one area that we are kind of struggling with, just in terms of having consistency across the district with it. And it's a challenge with getting the information back if the students do complete their NIMS certifications, and having that entered into our student information system correctly, to make sure students are getting credit for that. So that's one area that we're still kind of dealing with and trying to figure out some solutions for. We had 2 manufacturing apprentices this year for 25 and 26, and super success stories with those students. One's going into full-time employment as when he graduates high school, and will also be attending Harper College for his associates in manufacturing. And then we have another student transitioning into a Department of Labor apprenticeship for metal fabrication with the Boilermakers Union. And we have 3 apprentices we are onboarding for next school year. And you don't have to click on it, but in the slideshow, or in the slides, I did put a link to our Illinois Youth Apprenticeship Framework for manufacturing, if anybody wanted to use those competencies that are in there, that we've had for a couple of years now, and we've been using it with external employers. It's worked really well. So feel free to use that as a resource. We have 33 students on track to complete manufacturing endorsement. So next slide. So then our next steps are just continuing to refine the team challenge criteria for the Robot Rumble, and make sure that, again, it's consistent and aligned between high schools. Similarly with the high mileage competition, we're improving the tracking and consistency with our NIM certification. We're working on improving the connections that the youth apprentices have with our local unions, since that is just such a fantastic opportunity for employment and the RTI that they provide. And then with the career pathway endorsements, we are working on improving the conversion rate from students that are on track to actually completing, because we have like 100 and some students that are missing just a couple of things on it. And I think there's some room for improvement there, that we can just get them what they need in order to get that endorsement on their transcript. So that's what we've been up to this year.
Thank you so much. Lots of exciting things happening there. Our next community to spotlight is Peoria. So Peoria started in school year 25-26 with 18 students. Currently, they have 12 students in the program. They have 23 that participated last year and 20 projected for next year. So some growth there. And they shared they have some lessons learned about their internship program. They launched with 7 students in the class of 2018, and it's in its 9th year of implementation. And it's grown to approximately 150 students total that have been served, with 15 students in the current cohort. So it looks like they've really managed to establish some sustainability with this internship program. 50 plus students transitioned to full-time production careers or college internships after graduation. So it's helping students progress towards that career.
So I was down there 2 weeks ago, and their next steps are actually moving into robotic welding and robotic manufacturing. And Caterpillar is actually sponsoring a program at Woodruff Career and Technical Center next year. And they're funding about a $500,000 program because of what they've done at Manual High School. It's a great program. Manual, actually, Andrew Rice, who runs the Manual program, Caterpillar's hired him as a trainer to train their new employees, because they've developed such a great program and a great partnership with Caterpillar. So yeah, I'm sure they're going to report on it next year, but I was just down there, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, and they're setting up the new lab, and have got all the equipment in over at Woodruff, and it's going to be interesting to see how they expand this. So you can see their expansion. So that they didn't want to really say that out loud, but it just got signed, delivered last week. So there's my 2 cents.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Well, and there's a lot of work to collaborate and to continue to bring in additional resources for the students. So a lot of work on the EFE side, of course, Peoria Public Schools, and a lot of the programming and being able to launch CCP currency at ICC, so that way students also have that as an added benefit to completing those endorsements. So there's honestly a lot of work currently ahead to be able to expand additional pathways as well to support just CTE in general. And so that's at least what I can share on a smaller scale. And I'm sure we'll continue to share updates as we make them.
Yes, thank you so much. All right. So that is Peoria. And then Michael, we are actually at Western Cook County now.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So here representing Western Cook County. So this is EFE 30. So just west of O'Hare Airport. We're really lucky in this area. As you can see from this slide, we have just a multitude of industry partners and large industry partners. For example, Sloan Valve, you'll see there. You might recognize Sloan Valve from like Sloan Park from the Cubs. They do a lot of manufacturing in our area, but then also some smaller aerospace companies like QCC Technetics and CJ Anderson. These are all partners that we've worked with both at Ridgewood High School and Leiden High School within the EFE in Earn While You Learn programs and work-based learning opportunities. And with the guidance of the TMA, the Technology and Manufacturing Association. So again, so happy to be in the area we are and having all the relationships, professional relationships that we do have. So lessons learned. So we are right now focusing on credentials. So our industry partners do provide feedback on, what is recognized, what is supported. And, we do come back to OSHA 10 a lot. I know it's a base level credential. But OSHA 10 is widely recognized, and it does give high school students that, foundational level of safety, which is, not unique to manufacturing, but rather ubiquitous around all industries. And then the National Institute for Metalworking Skills is kind of the gold standard for credentials. That's what we strive for. There are several NIMS credentials that we try to train towards. One of them is material measurement and safety, but then also getting kids on CNC mills and CNC lathes and trying to get those credentials as well. All this is done, with the cooperation of the Technology and Manufacturing Association. They're a big part of our partnership and help guide the curriculum that we're doing, the order that we're doing that in. And one of the other things that we found really beneficial is utilizing spring break. We have a week that we know that students aren't going to be in school, but all those companies you saw on the previous slide are going to be doing business Monday through Friday. So we leverage that and get our students out for mini internships. They'll do approximately 40 hours. They'll see multiple departments. We'll get them the PPE and provide transportation. They'll be under our insurance, all those good things that help that partnership continue. It turns out to be almost like a week-long job interview. So if that turns out to be a good thing for the company, they could always hire them for competitive employment after that experience is over. If it wasn't a good opportunity for the student or for the company, it's this nice graceful ending to that week. So we're really happy with that format. That's been great. And then, of course, we are always looking to those college and career pathway endorsements in order to, have that be our gold standard. So all the work that we do in the background has focusing on the 60 hours of work-based learning that students need and the 6 hours of early college credit that they need, as well as the academic standards in order to do that. So we have some fun team-based challenges. We were part of the Robot Rumble, so shout out District 214. Thank you so much for that. That was a huge win for us to be part of that, and really engaging for students.
Yeah, so this is like sort of our model, and this is how it really works. We worked with this actually with the manufacturer in our backyard and sort of created if we really want to get employers into manufacturing, we really have to start wide. It's a funnel system, and the work starts really in grade school, and we have to have different events for them. So we start with our summer camps, and really this gets hits on a lot of students, and then it sort of funnels down into the high school. We have our PLTW courses, and then as students become upperclassmen, we try to get them over to TMA, earn their NIMS credentials. Senior year, second semester, our students then do internships and go work with companies, and then out of those kids, they launch their careers in the manufacturing. From Ridgewood that were offered full-time jobs at manufacturing companies last week. Even one of them, meeting with human resource to figure out what is the path they'd like to do within the company. Because, our goal is that our kids actually will continue to as well, hey, take these jobs, continue to go to school, move up in these companies, expand your role. And while it's not just ours, it's nice to see that these manufacturing companies, they will focus and help those students as they start. It's not just we want to give you a full-time job, but hey, here's a full-time job. Here's a projection of how you can move a company. Where would you be most interested in doing? So this system has worked for us for quite a bit. And then it's nice that we started with manufacturing here at Ridgewood, and then this is a model that we use really for all our pathways. But it started with manufacturing.
I could take this one. Just summing up our area. We're always looking ahead. We do benefit from our geographical area and our industry partners that we have in our area. So really leveraging that. So we have a goal to increase those partnerships, increase our advisory council participation. Additionally, reaching down to the middle school levels is very, very important. Students are making up their mind on what career area or career cluster they're interested in at an earlier age. So having more outreach, we're all high school districts, Eric and I. So reaching out to a different district that is our, feeder or partner school district does make a lot of sense. And leveraging the summertime, for example, to do some fun activities and get students engaged in that area is huge. And then trying to make sure that our curriculum is not stale and is reflective of current industry and what we see on the horizon. So I heard robotics and laser engraving and things like that from some other regions. So that's definitely what we're looking to do in our area too. And then continue with the work-based learning that we've started, continue to grow that. And then hopefully take this model that we have here and get that into all of our other career clusters. It seems to be the strongest in manufacturing.
I want to echo Frank is our advisory chair for we'll call it our tech. And one thing that Frank has done, and Eric was part of this earlier, that really getting our teachers and instructors connected with industry, I think they really need to see and go into a manufacturer. Frank's taken teachers in 2 different manufacturing facilities this year, and it really has changed how we look at things on a curricular aspect of things. And like Frank says, we're doing this with all of our pathways. We're even getting to the point we don't have a career center, so we use Triton as our career center. So Leiden and Ridgewood and Proviso West have very strong manufacturing programs, but the other schools don't. So we actually have those students come to Triton and take classes at Triton. And then one of the things that we have at Triton is a very strong welding program. So those students actually do their courses 4 days a week. And we call it Work-Based Learning Fridays, where we do employability skills, we do the team-based challenges, and we prepare them for a second semester of doing their work-based learning. This has helped us increase our number of college and career pathway endorses. And then we're actually, with the help of Frank Holdhouse and Leiden and Nick Poliak, their superintendent, we're having a summer program for manufacturing that we're opening up for all of our schools. So I think this is where we're kind of scaling up based on the work really that Ridgewood and Leiden have done through the STAMP grant and really scaling it up to our whole region. So we're super excited to see where this pans out. And we already have a partnership with one of Frank's manufacturers and one of Eric's manufacturers, where the students in the summer are actually going to have hands-on learning every Friday. And that's for 6 weeks over the summer.
Can I jump in quick before we move on? Michael, that is such a great point about keeping not just the students, but the teachers engaged with what's happening on the shop floor and having that firsthand experience. Love that. Also was, so many exciting things happening in this presentation. But Frank, when you were talking about the spring break internships, such a great way to capture that window of time when you are thinking about scheduling constraints. So that gets you 40 hours towards the 60-hour career development experience. Do you have a plan for those students who don't get connected into an additional 20 hours with that employer they had the internship with? How do we fill that extra 20 hours for those kiddos?
Yes, definitely something that we're finished or polishing. Right now, the biggest barrier is actually our early college credit in that area. So we have a couple of things that are kind of preventing us from a wider scale release of CCPEs. But yeah, we do have a plan in place to have continued work-based learning opportunities in order to hit that 60-hour mark.
I think that is the end of our community updates. But before I move on to our next piece, I wanted to sort of open it up for questions, but I wanted to start off because I saw that there was some conversation in the chat, and I didn't have a chance to read it all. But let me see, what was the question? I think it was Sarah. Curious to see any trends with CCPE on-track students that don't complete the endorsement. Is there a component that comes up as a barrier for multiple students? Marcella, I know you answered this in the chat already, but I would love if you could speak to this a little bit more.
The work-based learning piece is kind of the biggest limiting factor then for the student totally finishing the CCPE. And we do embedded work-based learning in the higher level courses, which does get students, 10, 20 hours, some get 30, depending on the coursework they're taking. And then for that extra 30, a student could do a micro internship, which is only 30 hours. They could do the regular internship, which is 60. I mean, if they're in an apprenticeship they're doing at least 450 hours. So they've got everything covered with that. But the manufacturing space is still just a little challenging with getting our employers to take students because we're past the child labor laws with OSHA and all of that, but it's the employer's insurer that's driving a lot of the conversation, and whether or not the insurer says they can have someone on site if they're under the age of 18. And also with some of our youth apprenticeships, because they are not registered, we have had some employers that decline doing an apprenticeship because they said that they'd only take Department of Labor registered apprenticeships. But for some of our local employers, they know our program, and they have made some exceptions in order to have the apprenticeship. And because we have like an ironclad apprenticeship agreement, we have insurance on this for the students in there. And as an apprentice, the employer is paying the student wage. So the student then or the apprentice is considered an employee of that employer. And then they're also covered under that liability insurance. So a lot of stuff around the insurance and liability, but there are ways to get, I don't want to say around it, but the employers that want to work with us and realize the value in the student being there, and also on how these students are impacting their employment pipeline, has made a big difference. Mm-hmm. And then, those videos that we make too. I mean, we share them. We use social media. We have students doing our social media, and we just want to get the word out for other employers to want to participate with this. And it's all about the student experience and doing what's best for the students.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing some really great nuggets there. I love that you have students do social media. I also think that the insurance questions definitely come up a lot for manufacturing, especially. So I appreciate you speaking to that. I see that I think Terry has a raised hand.
Like, I know in our area, we've working with our partners to have students rotate through different departments, not just working on a machine. So therefore, they're not doing some of the hazardous work. That has helped out quite a bit there. But then also letting them know that when the student, because it's part of their coursework and we put them through the internship class, that the school's liability insurance also covers them while they're out on site. That has softened some people up there as well with that information. And then when all else fails, we've had them as they're just there to shadow someone, kind of per se. They're not there as a full-time employee. And the employment or the stipend that they receive comes from our 501c3 partner rather than the company itself. So that has allowed them some wiggle room that they're not technically an employee of the company, but try to find ways around it and try to continue to educate companies on the rules as far as what they can and can't do while they're out there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. So actually next on our agenda is an update from our data team, both about sort of what the sum of the data with STAMP reflects, but also our STAMP dashboard. So with that, I will hand it off to Dominique from our team.
Thanks, Laura. Hi, everyone. If we haven't met, my name is Dominique Janvier. I'm one of the data analysts at EdSystems. I actually did PLTW when I was in high school, fun fact. So I didn't even know I was in like a pathway program when I was in high school. So it's really awesome to hear about people doing PLTW. But just want to give an update on the STAMP dashboard. So this is something that we create with the data that you share. It's kind of an aggregate view, an overview of the number of participants in STAMP, what pathways they're taking, breakdown demographic, all of that. And it's really meant to just track students who take manufacturing courses from the beginning of STAMP to whatever the most recent current school year is, or whenever we most recently received their data. So, depending on what you're looking for, there are a number of questions that you can answer. with the dashboard. Where do these students come from? We have filters by region and district. What demographic information can we know about these students? We have demographic data by race and ethnicity and also by gender. How many of these students earn an industry credential? What are those credentials? How many students are high needs as a result of facing low income barriers? And what do we know about students taking specific manufacturing pathways? So with that, here's some quick facts from our most recent upload of the data. To date, we've had almost 10,000 total students served through STAMP as of May 2026. 950 of those students earn an industry credential. 5,350 of those students have high needs, representing more than half the sample population. We define students with high needs as anyone having free and reduced lunch, their home or school address is in a qualified census tract, or if their home or school address is in a disproportionately impacted area. And then I don't know if there's another slide after that, but I am prepared to give a demo of our most recent update. So I'll just do that now and share my screen. So this is our dashboard on the EdSystems website. Just to show you how to navigate there, here's our homepage. One way is, you could always go down to the bottom and just search for it. Another way is to click on our work. Then at the bottom, we have our full portfolio of our current projects in alphabetical order. If you scroll down, you'll see STAMP. And then listed under project resources, we have the data dashboard. Again, if you don't want to do all that, you can always just search for it. Earmark it just to have it on hand. But here's the dashboard embedded on this page. At the top, we provide a little bit of background about the STAMP dashboard, what STAMP is. And then in the actual dashboard, we have a number of different data points to reference. At the very top, we have the total number of students served through STAMP. To date, we have the total number of students with high needs, the total number of STAMP students who have graduated with CCPE, and then also students earning a credential. Below that, we have a bar full of filters that you can use to filter the data across the entire dashboard. Right now, all the data is aggregated with all of the districts, but you can choose to filter the data by your particular district or a region of the state. You can also filter data by the graduation year of the students, the program, the manufacturing program that they're in, or whether or not they are high needs. We have, sorry, the camera is messing this up. Anyway, we have a chart listing the total number of students by district. You can do that by district or by region, just as a comparison to show how many districts or how many students are distributed across the districts in STAMP. You can also organize this data by grad year or school year, number of students in STAMP. And then for the credentials, it's a little trickier. So what we've done is we first list how many students earn credentials by program. And then what you can do is you can drill down. Should be able to drill down. I need to reset that. But what you should be able to do is you would be able to hover over the program, click drill down actions, and then choose which program for which you want to see all of the credentials that have been earned. I think this feature was actually removed, so I'll need to accommodate that. But that should be a way that you can see all of the credentials that were earned for a particular program. On the bottom, we have students by program. You can see here that integrated manufacturing is the most popular program for students in STAMP. We have the number and we have the percentage breakdown. We also have students by racial demographic, again, the count and the percentage, and then the students by gender, the count and the percentage. For these data, any cell sizes smaller than 10 were masked. So, for example, if you have a smaller district with a smaller number of students participating in STAMP, when you get down to the students by program or the racial demographics, you might see that that data is actually redacted because there's less than 10 students in that grouping. And then also we just wanted to note that demographic data is only available for students that have been matched with ISB data. So we might not have demographic data for every single student that's in your STAMP cohort, but we do for the ones that we were able to match with ISB data. And then lastly, if you navigate to Google Data Studio, there are options to download this data as a PDF. If you hover over this arrow here under Share, click Download Report, and then click Download. There are some customizations there, but they're not necessary. We'll have this here saying Preparing PDF. It may take a little bit of time. There's a lot of underlying data there. It's downloaded, and then it's just a PDF sort of snapshot. So this would be great if maybe you want to share it with folks internally, externally, if you want to add it to a deck, a presentation, so that you don't have to keep going back to the actual dashboard page. It is static, so that's one downside, but it's just another way to sort of take a snapshot of your own district's data, if you so choose. And with that, the demo is complete. Are there any questions? Curiosities? Has anyone here seen this dashboard or used it before? Okay, I see some yeses, so that's cool. Thank you for looking at our products. Just wanted to let you know that this is something that's out there, and something cool that we're doing with your data. So,
Dominique, I think there is one question.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was like a raise hand if you've used it or if you had a question. So go ahead, Sandy.
Just a quick question. How often do you foresee like updating this long term?
Yeah, so we update it as often as we get data from you all. So depending on the district, we do get data just within a range. So I think these past data were updated just earlier in the spring. So once in the spring and once in the fall is typically when we update it. Yeah.
Thank you, Dominique. Appreciate all of the work our data team is doing to support our STAMP regions and give them such a useful resource. Another sort of piece of STAMP that we're going to talk about as sort of our last big section here today is some work we have been doing to conduct a survey of employers around work-based learning implementation. And for this section, I am going to hand it off to our innovation manager, Alexia, to sort of talk about the work we've been doing here and sort of what some of the early insights are.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. And hi, everyone. As Laura mentioned, I'm the innovation manager here at EdSystems. Alexia, for anyone who I haven't had a chance to chat with or meet, but I'm happy to see some of you all that I've been able to engage in some conversation with. Your thoughts are going to be reflected here soon in this short overview of what we were able to capture from employers. So we can go to the next slide. Also, I am not a data expert, but I did my best with the survey. Thank you all again for bearing with me through this process. But I did want to remind us of kind of the big piece of the survey that we kind of workshopped in our last COP. employers were able to kind of view this section that was reflective of the STAMP resource that was created. I can drop it in the chat after, but all about supporting high school interns. And so we have that resource that has all kinds of helpful things that employers or anyone that is supporting a student through the process can use. So we kind of took some of those pieces and revamped the language a bit. And this was the big kind of ask that we had of employers to rank themselves between never and always using some of these resources, some of these practices, I should say. So if you go to the next slide here. I wanted to walk through the kind of highest rated practices, ones that showed up most often. First, the highest rated practice was sharing career pathways. So, employers reported that they are making sure that students are understanding what their post-secondary options are and industry options, connecting those students to their kind of work that they're doing with how they could navigate a next if it's something that they want to continue. I should say too that these are kind of averaged out. So there are a good bit, but they were very close in their averages. But another piece was structured onboarding. So really putting them through the experience that an actual official employee would go through in that onboarding with official documentation. They reported higher levels of active mentorship, which is great. So moving beyond that supervisor role and really thinking about how to support the student as a whole and through the process for professional growth beyond the technical skills. And then thinking about check-ins and expectations. So kind of going along with that kind of structured onboarding, employers are really thinking about how to consistently meet with students and track that progress, setting those clear goals and expectations. And I think, too, a side note that with our presenters today, I really enjoyed hearing from all of you. And I think your relationships and work is reflected in a lot of these employers' reports. So I just want to thank you all for being here and adding some additional context to what we're hearing from employers and giving some light to that. So another piece here is that collaborative dialogue. So really just working with partners, especially around the development of students, what they're required to kind of understand at the end of the experience, and working on those consistent feedback loops. And then last is the cultural integration. So really trying to work a student into experiencing what that workplace is like beyond just their job role, but really trying to bring them into the culture of what that organization is. So those are some of the highest rated. And then I did want to just talk about some of the lower rated areas of opportunity. One was the professional portfolio piece. So this was the least utilized practice. So there might be opportunity to collaborate with, helping students organize their documents or things that they learn, what work products they might have, and how they are representing and collecting what they've done to be able to present at the end of their experience. We talked a lot about the hosting interns under 18, not too surprising there, but as I mentioned here, it also aligns with a lot of the qualitative feedback that I was able to collect through conversations with you all as well, specifically around that insurance and liability. So I appreciate Terry and Marcella for sharing. And if anyone else has some thoughtful, creative ways to kind of navigate that or things that have worked for them, please share in the chat. And then lastly is staying connected after internship. So there were a few reports there, but it looked like there was still room to grow in maintaining that alumni network, or thinking about how we can support students in that kind of pipeline after that work-based learning ends. And so thinking about how they can, stay engaged with students after they complete. just a couple of points from my conversations with some of the STAMP regions. If I was not able to connect with you, I would still love to. So I might be in contact, or please reach out if there are more things that you'd like to share. But some big things that stood out were just the alignment and structural growth of programming, scalability trends, and then access and engagement. So there was a lot of conversation around strengthening the partnerships that currently exist, talking about keeping our, I believe Frank mentioned, like staying up on curriculum and making sure that it is staying on trend with what's happening in the industry, and then supporting that infrastructure investment with the strategic use of funding. So thinking about what is most important for helping a student be successful in that opportunity, and using those dollars to help that be the place where they can go. And then moving on to scalability. So a lot of conversation around demand versus capacity, with thinking about some partnership challenges or transitions, I should say. There was conversation around, having the capacity to support students as well, or to place students when thinking about employer capacity, and trying to navigate some of those things. And then Terry also talked a little bit about communication and perception gaps. So also helping both students and guardians understand what a pathway might entail, what a student could end up kind of experiencing throughout the process. And then again, lastly, just some of that access and engagement challenges with that 18 and under, and then thinking about how to support some of those challenges with bringing in other folks from that from outside of that organization that might be able to help with some of that training. So really thinking about how to present the opportunity as a value add to that organization, and how in ways that they can navigate that barrier. And lastly, I just wanted to also highlight some great things that partners were sharing on the survey. So there were two big things that stood out to me, which was a commitment to growth from partners. So a lot of them were expressing that they are expecting to have more or the same number of students in the coming year. There was a trend of significant reach. So a lot of them reported engagements of high engagement between 200, 2,000. Terry mentioned 600. So a lot of students that they're willing to and wanting to engage with. And then ongoing support. So some of the opportunities that were mentioned are offered throughout the year. So really giving students that more consistent exposure and opportunity for development and growth when it's a kind of sustained process like that. And then lastly was the enthusiasm for student success. So employers are excited to be a part of a student's journey. They were, sharing that they wanted to, they really enjoy being able to support students' learning and have a part in the hands-on experience. They expressed valuing the programs that they're a part of. I pulled this quote here that one of the organizations shared that the apprenticeship program is a important part of their business model. So thinking about those kind of conversations and, bringing in some partners along, these are stories that can be shared to, try to explain that they may not be 18, but there are other ways that they can add value to your organization and that can support what you all might be wanting to lead your future towards as well as a business. And then just being committed to the programs, they want their numbers to increase, and they really enjoy just having the environment of having students around, hosting them with school tours, classes, and just giving students a look at what their industry is like. So I wanted to highlight some of those things to you all and just appreciate your work with supporting students in these processes. And it was clear from responses that this collaboration and partnership is something that both sides are really paying attention to and wanting to focus on in order to support students. So I just appreciated hearing that both in the survey and from you all today.
Thank you, Alexia, so much. I think we're all excited when we get a chance to sort of hear from employers and find out sort of what they think about all of the pathways and the implementation of them. I am certain that we will have more of this sort of in writing to share with you all too, so that you can reference back to it later. But excited to have some sort of preliminary findings shared with us today from Alexia. This is bringing us to the end of our agenda for today, but we really appreciate you all joining us. Really exciting work going on with STAMP, and we're excited to give our communities and the feedback from our employers sort of a spotlight in this showcase. So thank you so much.